Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Storytime Society. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so glad you're alive. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. This theme of this episode is another mother-in-laws from hell, basically. Some crazy mother-in-law stories. So we're going to get right into the first story. We're starting off with a bang, but it is short. It's just a little crazy, and I had to read it. The title is My Sister in Law is My Stepdaughter. First time poster, and I'm just lost. My colleague told me this would be the best place to get proper advice and support. My in laws are going through a divorce. They're both nasty people in their own right, and my father in law was trying to weasel his way out of paying child support. A paternity test was done on all four of their children. He reached out to us last weekend to share his findings. We found out that my sister in law was my husband's daughter. He'd have been 14 years old when she was conceived. My mother in law is refusing to answer any questions that came from this bombshell and is hiding behind her lawyer. My husband says he never had sex with his mother, but did engage in certain practices with his mother that led him becoming estranged with her since before I met him. I just don't know where to go from here or what to do. I just saw this title and I was like, this is actually insane. I mean, we've read stories similar to this before, but it never gets easier to read a story like this. It's just so bizarre to me and also so sad because obviously this poor boy was going through sexual abuse and probably a lot of other forms of abuse as well if this was his mother doing this. And that is just actually so hard for me to wrap my head around. Okay, let's read some comments. Someone said, so many hugs to all of you affected by this. The community here is supportive and the mods are incredible. Share as much or as little as you need in order to heal. And then someone said, lots of love to you and your hubby. I'm in no way minimizing his past or abuse, but I would get a paternity test outside of your father-in-law's. You said he isn't that great of a person. It's totally possible he knew of what mother-in-law was doing with DH and is using it to his advantage. Only a suggestion. I hope for the best for you guys in this trying time. And then basically everyone is saying, like, I'm so sorry, which there's not really much I feel like you can say to that because it's not like I'm going to give you advice for what you should do because that situation is just so absurd that I wouldn't know how to deal with that myself. Like, I would be actually so. Because me, like, being the wife is one thing, but then, because it's hard to separate, like, oh, okay, so this is, you had, like, a daughter, but then it's like, no, you were abused and by your own mother, and then she had a daughter with you. So, like, I don't know, it's just so hard because it's one thing for you to be dealing with, but then you also are taking on the grief and like the I don't know what your husband is going through. Because if that happened to me, I would one be extremely just sad and like overwhelmed about everything, but then at the same time I would be so sad for him because for me I take on a lot of people around me's emotions, and like even if I don't know you, I can see something and read something and like I immediately take on those emotions for from those people. And so when it's someone close to me, it's so much worse and I actually feel physical pain if my boyfriend was going through this type of situation. And I don't even know how I would control myself because the way that I would literally egg her face, like I would throw eggs at her face if I found out that my boyfriend went through this. I would actually, it would be insane. Okay. This is there's a trigger warning essay for this next story, but the title is Am I the Asshole for Leaving a Family Dinner Early Because My Mother-in-Law Told People That I Was SA'd? Okay, there's a few updates on this. So the first story is I've never used Reddit before. My situation happened a couple of days ago and I saw a TikTok of people reading from it and saw the comments and how they would give advice. So I thought I'd try it out. Bear with me knowing all the terminology. I'm 26 and my husband is 27. We've been together since we were 16 and 17. Early on, I loved his mother. She was the sweetest woman ever. She welcomed me with open arms and always made good company. Of course, like everyone, she had her moments. Like getting a little too mad at a cashier not understanding her needs or making a joke that made people a little uncomfortable, but everyone always brushed it off because she's just an amazing person. At the age of 23 to 24, me and my husband got engaged, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's like his mother's persona just flipped. Like there was a switch on the back of her head. When we told her we were engaged, she got pale and looked like we had told her someone had died. My husband got weirded out like this and called her out on it. She just said she had to go, and we didn't hear from her for about 3 weeks. We had lunch together often as family means a lot to me and my husband, so when we got stood up for our lunch date, we were worried. Maybe my husband came off a little harsh, so we went to check on her. My husband's dad let us in, but had to talk to us first. He had began to tell us that she was shaken up by the proposal, saying it wasn't how things were meant to be. Hearing this, my husband got mad at his mother, implying that she had always thought of their relationship as temporary. He went to their room with me and his father following behind. We had found her cuddled up We'd find her coddled up with baby pictures of him crying. This was really disturbing for me, and I excused myself. I was extremely confused and hurt that my soon to be mother in law thought of our relationship like that. My father in law consoled me and said, for whatever it's worth, I believe there's a little string bonding you and my son together. Don't listen to her. This stuck with me and made me cry, and I still remember it to this day. My mother in law proceeded to text me that I had taken away her baby boy, that no one could replace the love that they share. Yes, I know a mother's love isn't replaceable, but in my opinion, a mother and a wife should not be in the same category to compete with each other. The love they show is completely different, and the love that's given to them is completely different too. She goes on to tell me that it was just meant to be him and her against the world. She has 3 other children. I didn't respond because it just weirds me out to think if she always felt this way. Back when I was a little girl, a parent of a child I was friends with essayed and tortured me. I used torture lightly. He burnt my legs in privates and dug into my skin with heated up head of the lighter. My husband knew this very early on and often had to take a few hits because I had panic attacks, especially when we became intimate. He went out of his way to make sure that I was loved and appreciated. He kisses all the parts of my body, including my scars. He was extremely protective in a way where he only worried when something happened for him to be. He took hits from men for me and shouted at whoever he needed to. To say I'm in love with this man is an understatement. My mother in law knew what happened to me and cried when we told her. Fast forward a bit, some space and talks later, his mother tolerated me. The sting that comes with this relationship isn't describable. We were attending a family dinner where we planned on announcing our pregnancy. We had cooked words into the food saying who each person was going to be. Example, you're my auntie. Most caught on. My little niece caught on first, and then my mother in law. She became silent, which we thought was for the better, honestly. After we ate and we were just talking, she chimed in and asking, is it really my son's baby? Before I could say, excuse me, my husband yelled instead. My mother in law says that due to me letting another man touch me, how is she sure I wasn't weak enough to let that happen again? While my husband was arguing with her, I just got up and left. My husband ran after me, cussing his mother out, my father in law, too. People soon started saying they had to go as well as it was getting late. It was 6:30. I later got a message from my mother in law, getting mad at me for leaving and embarrassing her. I don't know, was I wrong for that? Was I wrong for what I did? I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe I should have just stayed and left more appropriately. Am I the asshole? Edit, because I can't keep up with all of the lovely comments. Me and our baby are no contact, and she won't see her grandchild. But my husband is keeping her number muted because we think having some way of communicating is better. I would never leave my husband if he does try to communicate. He's been with me through a world of hurt. This is a world of hurt for him. I'd never leave him. Just know that if you get an upvote on a comment, it was probably me. I can't thank you all enough. I don't really know where to post an update if there is one, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. Oh gosh. That's insane. What in the hell is wrong with that mom? I don't understand these types of stories. Like, I don't understand how mothers are like this. And it's actually insane to me because what do you mean you loved her so much. You guys had such a good relationship. You cried when she told her about her essay, and you were so worked up for her, and you were feeling like empathetic about it. And then all of a sudden, they are engaged and you hate her. You completely flip a switch, which is crazy to me because I just feel like, were you just pretending that whole time then? Were you just acting like you liked her and you really didn't like her the whole entire time? You were just waiting like for them to break up and so it didn't really matter? Because clearly you thought the relationship was temporary and you were just thinking, "Okay, I'll just be nice to her for the time being." But their relationship is going to end at some point, so then I'll have my son back. Also, crazy that you have multiple other children and you said it's just going to be me and him against the world. What do you mean? And what about your husband? I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Okay, some relevant comments. Someone said if your husband doesn't cut his mother off completely and permanently, you need to cut him off completely and permanently. OP said, I wouldn't go that far. He has been with me through thick and thin. I wouldn't leave him if he chose not to cut her off. We've talked about how contact would be low, but I would never want them to not have a relationship. I'd like to give her a chance because, as I stated, family is so important to us, but he has said he would do whatever he needs to make me feel safe. I feel like it's so hard because it's not black and white in a situation like this because you don't want to be the person saying you can't talk to your mom anymore. Like, I would never be like, unless it would have to be like to a certain extent. I definitely think that this is a very messed up situation, and I do think no contact would probably be the best option, but I don't think that you want to be the one telling your husband like, no, you can never communicate to your mom again. But obviously he's like putting in the effort, and I think that he would probably cut her off if something crazy happened again with his mom. So I think that is something to take into account. But we're gonna read the update. Am I the asshole for leaving a family dinner because my mother-in-law told people that I was essayed? Update. Hi, first I want to thank everyone so much for all the amazing sweet comments. Quick edit, this update was written over the course of a couple of days. So for example, I said my husband kept her number, but then I said she was blocked. I'm so sorry for any confusion that causes. If you've kept up with my edits or replies on my original post, you'll know that I was low contact with my mother-in-law. I've now gone full no contact. My husband keeps her number muted just in case something happens. My baby will never meet her grandma unless a professional tells me that she won't act like that anymore. I know some of you think I should divorce my husband if he doesn't go full no contact. Respectfully, that's some advice I won't listen to. He has been through so much with me, and to leave because he has to make a hard decision isn't what I agree with. We both think that keeping some way of communicating is what's best. Doesn't mean we are going to talk to her at all. Please don't comment that's stupid or you're going to get a world of hurt. It's purely for emergency purposes. His parents are getting old. We've had to come to terms with needing to keep her number in case something happens. To clear this up too, my father-in-law never took her somewhere at the beginning because she had gotten better, hence why we went to dinner with her in the first place. Now he is looking into people to help my mother-in-law, and I completely understand why he wouldn't just drop and divorce her. This is real life, and he made a promise to her to never leave when things got rocky. He may be blind and overly hopeful, but he is a man of his word. Also, all the comments saying what you would have done to my mother-in-law made me and my husband laugh a lot, so thank you so much. Please know that I saw all the comments and I loved them all. Now for the real update. So I had fully blocked my mother-in-law's number and she didn't appreciate this at all. It started off with messages to my husband about it, then letters, home visits, and then a rock through our window. We have no evidence that it was her, but we have our suspicions. My father-in-law hired a professional to talk to my mother-in-law and she didn't agree at first, then was willing when the therapist said that she wouldn't see her son or his baby ever. When she said this, my father-in-law proceeded to yell that she has no place in suggesting his wife might see her son and child again without consulting us. He especially got mad that I wasn't included in this threat of no contact. He fired her on the spot. We were on call with my father-in-law to hear how things went. We found someone else that understands our position and wants to help give answers to my mother-in-law's family. Her first session went okay. She isn't keen on the therapist idea, but I think she just remembers what was said to her a couple of days ago. She's been calling my husband and leaving voicemails crying, saying I'm a witch for taking him away from her. and that this isn't how it was supposed to go. We send every voicemail to her therapist, and she's given us some possible reasonings like bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, or schizophrenia. We've continued to get letters in the mail. They differ from crying like paragraphs to the way that she plans on getting her son back. A lot were very violent to me and my baby. My husband isn't standing for this anymore, so we're going to be moving soon, and my husband has fully blocked her. This has been really hard on my husband because he's having to grieve someone who's gone yet still alive. I'll update more if anything happens and see and how the move goes. It's so hard when mental health is involved, especially because all you want for the person is for them to get help, but they have to get the help. And sometimes when it comes to certain types of mental health disorders, or like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia and stuff like that, it's hard for the people to realize that that may be something that they need to look at. And also, I feel like a lot of it is denial almost, because I know someone with bipolar disorder. I know multiple people with bipolar disorder, actually, like two, and they're related. But my sister has borderline personality disorder, and so I grew up around that, and I know a lot with what that like has is to deal with. And because I lived with her most of my life, like she lived with us most of my life. She was in and out, moving out and in from my mom's house, but she pretty much lived with us until she was like 27, 28. Like when my niece was born, I helped take care of her. She lived with us for like a year. So yeah, my mom and her would get in fights a lot though. So that is what would make my mom kick her out, and then she would come back. And then because my mom is like so nice, but they also just had like a very tumultuous relationship because of the closeness in age between them. It's not really that close, but like kind of. Like my mom got pregnant when she was 19, and so I don't know. I just feel like that closeness in age, which isn't that close, but it's still close enough to feel some type of way. I don't know really how to explain it, because obviously like she was 20 and my mom was 39. Like that's really not that close in age, but it definitely caused some problems and some tension between them, just because my mom was getting out of like a divorce and around that time, and for a while after that she was definitely having trouble with that, whereas like she was kind of trying to experience her younger years, if that makes sense, because she didn't get the younger years because she was pregnant and married for so long. And I feel like that is a huge thing when you get pregnant super early, is you kind of later on in life have like some type of almost midlife crisis, but early, like not actually midlife, if that makes sense. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, that's so hard because there's people in my life that definitely, there's someone in specific that is very close to us that needs to get help, but unfortunately doesn't believe in therapy, doesn't believe in mental health, doesn't believe in medicine. He is not from here, so he grew up in a culture very different to what the world we live in now. And also he lives in America now, so it's very different here from how he grew up with in a different country. And if that makes sense, I'm trying not to like reveal too many details just because, you know. But yeah, he definitely has, I'm not going to diagnose, but I think it runs in the family, bipolar disorder, and he unfortunately can't have a relationship with us because of this problem. It's honestly, I think he might have multiple disorders, because that's just what it seems like to me, but I'm not a doctor, I don't know. And yeah, unfortunately that hinders him having a relationship with us. So we're pretty much no contact with him, but if he would just get help, and if he would just go to a therapist, and if he would just like not deny that he has something that he needs to be treated for, we would have a relationship with him. And we've told him that, and unfortunately he doesn't think anything's wrong with him, and he believes that like, why would I go to a therapist? This is basically what he said to me. Why would I go to the therapist when those therapists are going to therapists. Like, I don't want to take advice from someone that has to go to a therapist. And that's just like so small and closed-minded to me, because obviously the therapist you're going to isn't giving you therapy because they're perfect and they have life all figured out. Just because they get therapy too, or they have problems in life too, doesn't mean that they can't help you. Like, they're not there to give you life advice. They're there to help you through trauma or cope through things or figure out what works best for you with the things that you struggle with. And it's just crazy, but a lot of people have that outlook, and it's definitely getting better, but unfortunately not with everyone. But we're going to read some of the comments on this last update. Okay. OP said, or a comment says, she still may need a medical exam with neurological focus workup. I say this not as her provider, but as a medical professional, so this is just a general suggestion anyone can make. And then OOP said, fair. I think we were thinking more on a mental point, but we will definitely take her to a doctor. Okay, someone said, why didn't the lot of you get her assessed years ago? When your first post time jumped, I was floored. It's like you opened the door to find the room on fire and decided to contain it with missing spray bottles and some rubber mats for years, then got surprised each time, and every time it flared up into the hall. The woman has been on fire this entire time. You don't keep calm and carry on with rapid and destructive behavioral changes. OOP said, that's just incorrect. I've stated multiple times when we found her crying with my husband's baby photos, we were planning on getting her help, but she got better on her own, hence why we were comfortable going to dinner with her. We thought, and she did too, that this random outburst was just her realizing that her son was grown. We didn't get help because she got better. Now it's happening again, and we are because it clearly wasn't what we thought. That's just hard, and you can only do so much for someone. So it's like, oh, she was on fire. You needed to like do this and this and this. Okay, well, you can't really, you can't, I mean, you can 5150 someone, but to be honest, like I have been around for someone that's gotten 5150 multiple times. And if I'm honest, that isn't really the best case scenario, because at each time, I don't know if it's just, I'm sure there are some instances where it can help, but I've just heard that it's not the greatest experience, and it almost makes things worse. But it's obviously good for getting on like medication, because they help you get on the medication and then they help you regulate the medication and stuff. And so by the time you come out, you're fully like medicated. But like, I don't know, I've just not heard good things about that. And it's definitely hard. It's not, no one's perfect, and you can say in hindsight, or when you're looking at someone else's situation, like, oh, you should have done this, oh, you should have done this, oh, you should have done this, but you don't know how you would react in that situation if that were you and you were actually dealing with that personally. And you can't expect someone to deal with something perfectly just because you're reading this story put together. You also don't know all the ins and outs about it, and I'm sure it's very nuanced in that way. So, okay. Let's read the next story. This one is also very short, but the title is, My mother-in-law offered to breastfeed my newborn while we were still in the hospital. As a 58-year-old woman, that's how against formula and obsessed with breastfeeding she is. She told me she was never able to use a pump, so I guess she was just assuming she would live with my baby and us and feed her off the breast every time. She was way too excited about me potentially not being able to breastfeed. I should have known that was coming, because while I was pregnant, we all went out to eat, and she casually mentioned at the table that her dream job was to be a wet nurse. I ended up being able to nurse, and the first few times she came and visited us, she would try to stroke baby's head while she nursed me. I shut that down real quick. So creepy. What is a wet nurse? Is that like when you breastfeed other people's babies? Because that sounds illegal. A wet nurse is a woman who breastfeeds and cares for another child. Wet nurses are employed if the mother dies, if she is unable to nurse the child herself sufficiently or chooses not to do so. I'm sorry, tell me that's not a thing anymore, because that almost seems like it should not be legal. That's like kind of crazy to me. Am I being crazy? Is this normal? Because that sounds like bad news bears to me. I'm going to look up, are wet nurses still around because I'm scared. Yes, wet nursing still happens, though it's less common than it was in the past. I just feel like that's so. It says wet nurses are still common in many developing countries, although the practice poses a risk of infections such as HIV. I just feel like that is so. There's so many things that could go wrong with that. And not only with the baby, as they said, like posing risks to their health, but also with the mother getting too attached to the baby. Because isn't when you breastfeed, you release like some sort of oxytocin that makes you fall in love with the baby? So I feel like it would probably end up being where the mom would like fall in love with the baby and then be like, no, this is my child, when obviously it's not actually her child. And that's really scary to me. But to each their own, I guess. If it I mean, I can understand if the mother passes away. Definitely I can understand that, but I think maybe just formula, right? I don't know. I don't want to be rude. It's just it doesn't seem like that would be the best case scenario in the situation. I think just probably formula feed, because I know a lot of people are against formula feeding, but and a lot of people think that you need to breastfeed your baby and like it's neglectful not to, but I don't believe that at all, and I think that it's 100% your choice. And I know a lot of babies that were formula fed that are perfectly fine and healthy, and they have no like developmental differences than babies that were breastfed. So I think it really depends on, like, honestly, if you can breastfeed but you just don't want to and you feel like breastfeeding is a lot, and I'm obviously never breastfed so I don't know, but I've been there when my sister was breastfeeding and stuff, and I've experienced like being around breastfeeding a lot. And if it's too much, and if it's too much for you physically or mentally, I think it's totally fine to decide that you think, especially because the dad, I don't know. I think there are pros and cons to both breastfeeding and formula feeding, in my opinion. And obviously, there's pros and cons to everything. So I think that if that's what the mother wants and she feels more comfortable doing formula feeding, that's fine. And if she feels more comfortable breastfeeding, that's also fine. But I just don't think there should be such criticism against people formula feeding, because I can just imagine what a mental toll and a physical toll that can take. But obviously a lot of people have good experiences with it as well. So everyone's different, and that's the beauty of individuality. You can make your own decisions. Okay. We're going to read some of the comments. Someone said, even if it was a joke, I'm sure it wasn't. It is so distasteful. I can't imagine any normal person hearing that comment and not immediately feeling disgust. Someone said, timeout. Am I reading this right? WTF. And then someone said, my mother in law tried to do this with her great grandson. It was so disturbing to me. I needed therapy, as there's no such thing as bleach for my eyes to try and get rid of this image. Please, please keep your child away from her. No, dead ass, please, because that's genuinely scary. If my mother-in-law did that, I would be running for the hills so quick, and I would just die if like I mean, I know my boyfriend wouldn't agree with that, and I know my mother-in-law wouldn't do that either, but if my boyfriend did agree with that and was like, "Oh no, you should," I would actually book a one-way flight to fucking Iceland or some shit. I don't even know. I'd be so scared. Okay. The next story is titled, Am I the Asshole for Hiding My Pregnancy from My Husband and My Mother-in-Law? I, 25 female, have been married to my husband, 28 male, for 3 years. My husband, I'll call him Joel, and I met in college and got married very young. We have both always dreamed of having a big family, and I have always wanted to be a stay-at-home mother. Joel and his mom have always been close, but it wasn't until recently that I noticed how unsettling their relationship truly is. For starters, Joel's mom, I'll call her Amy, has always been insanely protective over him. Although he is fully an adult man, Amy only refers to Joel as, hey, baby boy. Amy insisted on having the first dance with Joel at our wedding, and because she was paying for most of it, I let her have that, but put my foot down when she suggested that she should wear a cream color dress as mother of the groom. Amy lives in our neighborhood and has made a habit of showing up unannounced and inviting herself into all aspects of her life, of our lives. A few months ago, I found out that I was pregnant with our first baby, but just a few months in, I tragically lost the pregnancy. Before the miscarriage, Joel and I had been over the moon. Amy was so excited to be a grandmother, but some of her actions made me uncomfortable and angry. For starters, she insisted that she come to all of the appointments for the baby. When we first heard our baby's heartbeat, she jumped out of the chair and snatched Joel's hands and began to cry with excitement. Joel threw his arms around her, pointing out her grandbaby's heartbeat while I was left sitting there on my own. Although it was still early in the pregnancy, Amy proposed throwing her own grandbaby shower in order to get supplies for the baby to be kept at her house. I tried to shut this down, but Joel once again defended his mom. When I felt the kicks and movement, she ran over and nearly shoved my hand out of the way to try and feel. My final straw was after I lost the baby. I was devastated. Luckily, Amy was not over when I began noticing issues, and Joel and I were able to go to the hospital alone. But after calling his mom to tell her what was happening, Amy showed up at the hospital and cried so loudly Joel had to escort her out of the hospital and comfort her in her car. Once again, I was left there alone. This broke me. Although Joel has apologized profusely and said that he regrets leaving me, I have had a hard time finding forgiveness for that moment. I have to emphasize, other than his unusual relationship with his mother, our relationship has been nearly perfect. After the miscarriage, though, I started sleeping in the guest room and taking more time for myself to sort out my thoughts and decide where to go from here. Everything was fine until a few months ago. I had a few too many glasses of wine at a friend's wedding and ended up spending the night back in our main bedroom. I started to notice the same familiar changes in my body from my first pregnancy, which terrified me. I finally took a test and stared at the little plus sign in disbelief. Although I want to be a mother more than anything, I couldn't help but still feel the same feelings from my last pregnancy. Maybe it was the wrong choice, but I chose not to tell Joel right then. I booked an appointment and went to the doctor and found out that I was about 6 weeks pregnant already. This is where I may be the asshole. That was about 3 months ago, and I still have not told Joel. I'm now 18 weeks pregnant and just starting showing more, and I have taken to just wear big sweatshirts and baggy clothes around the house. I have loved being pregnant and not having to share the spotlight with Amy. This week, I felt the first flutters of the baby moving and didn't have to share it with anybody else. In just a few weeks, I can learn his or her gender and not risk having to throw a grandbaby gender reveal for my mother in law. Maybe most importantly, God forbid anything were to happen to the pregnancy again, I would rather handle it alone than have to deal with consoling her. But now, I don't know where to go from here. Obviously, I can only keep up with this for so long, but how do I explain to Joel that I've been hiding the pregnancy from him for months? Should I just run away and start a new life? Mostly kidding. Or am I already in too deep, so I might as well just keep hiding for as long as possible and not have to share the moment with anyone else? I love my husband and I don't want to leave him, but I don't know how I can save the situation and our marriage. I mean, it's definitely a bad sign that you have to hide the pregnancy from your husband because obviously it's like you want to tell your husband and you want to experience this with your husband and you think that if you were just like, hey, can we not tell your mom because I don't want to have to share the spotlight with her, and I think that the way that she was last time was ridiculous and I don't want that to happen again. But clearly, she doesn't even think that she could have a talk with him about that to try to get him to not tell his mom. Because I think that if she said that and this were like a normal, good relationship, then immediately the husband would be like, absolutely, that's totally fine. I think the same thing. But clearly, he's proved time and time again that he's like choosing the mother over his own pregnant wife, which is so crazy of him. And to be like constantly consoling the mom over her and being there for her over your own pregnant wife that just lost her baby. But go, oh my god, that apology would mean nothing to me. I would never, I don't know, that'd be really hard. I would build a lot of resentment, and obviously it's not just as easy as like leave him. By it's definitely something that I would be considering because I could not, I don't know if I could ever get over that. I would find it would be really hard for me. Okay, some of the comments. You need to get counseling ASAP. Arrange for both individual and couples counseling. You can tell your husband about the pregnancy and why you hid it with a mediator present. Your husband is a mama's boy. You might want to get a copy of When He's Married to Mom. by Ken Adams and have it handy for him. Be aware that resetting that type of relationship is very difficult and can only happen with a lot of work on his part. You've been sleeping in a different room and he hasn't taken any initiative to fix things. That's not a good sign. And then someone said, I second this. In fact, I suggest you go for a couple session on your own first and then bring your husband into a session and tell him about your pregnancy then. He needs to know that you have been hiding your pregnancy as a result of this, as a result of his and his mother's actions during your previous pregnancy. You and your husband are at a crossroads, and whether you both stay together will be determined by how much he's willing to make changes and put mommy in her place. Disgusting. It's so weird when it seems like the mother-in-law is the one that wanted. It's like she was experiencing the pregnancy through this girl and was just pretending like it was her pregnancy because she wanted to be pregnant with her own son so bad. You know what I mean? And that is very scary for me. Okay, let me know what you thought about these stories. We're going to move on to the advice segment. If you ever want advice, unprofessional advice from me, let me know. It's in the link in the description below. It's completely anonymous, so you can give me as much detail as you possibly can. That'd be great because it's always helpful to get more information to be able to say my opinion and help as much as I possibly can. And also for other people, if they've experienced that, it's nice for them to be able to comment things and help out on that end of things as well. But the first advice question is, no advice, but I think you should change the way you talk about Reddit stories. You're very judgmental and it's unfortunate. You essentially act like the person asking if they are the asshole are dumb for not knowing, and it comes off as entitled. You also come off as entitled with a lot of the things you say, and as a white girl, that's annoying. Okay, as a white girl is crazy, but in second, love you too. Bye. It's so crazy that you watched the whole entire episode to get to the advice segment and you still you went into my description, you clicked on this link and you fully filled this out. I mean, haters are my motivators, I guess. I feel like haters are the ones that are the most obsessed with you almost because it's crazy. Why would you watch a full episode if you hate the way that I react to things so much? That says a lot about you and less about me. But love you so much. Okay, let's get to a real advice question because that is what the advice segment or the advice form is for. It's not for sharing your unsolicited opinions to me because frankly I don't care. And second of all, just comment that and then I can block you. That'd be amazing. Okay. Anyways, this person said, Hey Jamie, I just wanted to say I love your videos and I listen to them when I'm getting ready and doing my makeup in the morning and it brightens my day so much. Right. So here we go. I'm from the UK and I know we have different social and relationship norms here, but I just need an unbiased opinion as I'm honestly driving myself mad. My boyfriend, 28 male, and I, 25 female, have been together for almost 6 years now. We bought a house back in September 2023 and have a dog together. Long story short, after so many conversations, I honestly think he's never going to propose. I feel the effort has just gone on our relationship. With Valentine's Day next week, I asked if he had planned anything and he said, No, not yet. Do you want to just go to the pub? And I said I would like you to plan something. He responded by saying that he didn't know if I'd prefer to stay in because of the dog and how tired I've been lately. I'm a trainee clinical psychologist. It's rough, lol. And he doesn't want to go to a Valentine's Day themed dinner as the restaurants hike the price up. I know he's worried about money at the moment, with him apparently locked out of his banking due to a scam. He also owns his own business and says it isn't going well as he hasn't had a full week of work in a couple of weeks. But I feel it's just an excuse after excuse of why now's not the right time. But honestly, I feel like the right time will never come. At the start, I know a relationship has the honeymoon phase where he'd tell me how lucky he was to have me and compliment my appearance. Now, I'm lucky if that happens once a month. All of our friends are getting engaged, married, and having children, and we have sat down and talked about relationships, expectations, and I have told him how important marriage is to me, but there's never any action. Rightly or wrongly, I have told him I have put a deadline on the relationship for September 2025. If there's no proposal, then he is clearly not committing, and I value myself too much to stick around for something that he says will happen but I see no proof of. I don't want to break up, of course, but I'm so tired of conversations with no action. Much love to you from across the pond. Love you so much. I can only imagine how hard that is. I completely understand because I feel like at a certain point, it's like, okay, we've been together for 6 years, and not to say that everyone needs to get engaged at 6 years. Obviously, it's different for everyone, but clearly you've made it a point to be like, this is what I want. And he's not given that to you. And it's also really hard when you don't have love languages that match up. And I find that to be honestly the one of the most detrimental things in a relationship, because although it doesn't seem like that much, and like you guys, or it doesn't seem like that big of a deal sometimes, and you guys can have, you obviously love each other and you have good moments, because otherwise you wouldn't be with him. But I honestly think that not matching up in the way that you guys love each other is one of the biggest issues in a relationship, because I've personally experienced a relationship where our love languages just did not match up. And no matter how much I expressed to him the kind of love that I wanted to receive, he never, ever gave me that. Like, yes, he would constantly say, I'll be better, I'll be better, I'll try, I'll try. It would maybe be fixed for that day. And then after that, it's back to normal, and he just wouldn't try again. And not that I didn't love him, because I know I loved him at the time that we were dating. I am so glad that I didn't continue that relationship and I didn't end up staying with that person forever. Although at the time I thought that I wanted to be with that person forever, because I just didn't think, like, I thought, I love him so much, he loves me so much, why am I letting this small thing get in the way? But to be honest, the small things add up, and it really becomes such a bigger deal, especially when nothing's changing and it's been so long, and time again he's proving to you over and over again that he's not willing to work on this and not willing to give you the love that you deserve. So unfortunately, I don't think that is ever gonna happen. Like, even if he did work on it for a little bit, I think that it would end up going back to normal in the future. And I always like to look at it as like, just think about the past 6 years. Okay, you loved this person. You love this person, not loved, but you love this person. And you guys have really amazing times together, but there's also a lot missing in the relationship. And that's, I like to think of it in the grand scheme of things, where it's like 6 years over the rest of your life. You know what I mean? And also, there's gonna be people out there that you will find, although it doesn't seem like it, but you will find someone that matches your needs and matches your energy a lot more. And I hate to say, like, go find someone better, but go find, not to say go find someone better, but go find someone that more matches up with your values, and he will find someone hopefully that matches with his values and the way that he gives love, because there are people out there that will be fine with the way that he loves, and then there are people out there who will love you the way that you want to be loved as well, if that makes sense. But the biggest thing that I have to say is I always, always, always picture the grand scheme of things. Do I really want to be begging for this type of love for the rest of my life? Because if he hasn't given me that love for the past 6 years, and he doesn't put in the effort that I want for the past 6 years, then why would I think that he's going to do that for the rest of our life? You know what I mean? There's just so many things to consider when it comes to marriage and in getting engaged. And I do feel like a lot of the time it's more of like a goal rather than like having a foundation in the relationship first, and then letting that just become naturally. Although I do completely understand like being with someone for 6 years and being ready to be engaged and like waiting for it, and also communicating that you're ready for it and not getting that. That's so frustrating, and I can imagine I would also be frustrated as well. But I know that you don't want to break up with him, and I'm not saying just like break up with him, but I am just saying think of the bigger picture for the rest of your life. Do you want to be like begging someone to love you this way or treat you this way or put in this type of effort? Because I can totally understand how it feels to not be loved the way that you want to be loved. And even though the person that I was with that did this was a great person, he just wasn't my person. He wasn't my great person. And that's unfortunate, but I'm very grateful that I didn't decide to continue with that relationship because I'm sure I would probably be married to him right now and very unhappy with that choice. So I love you and I hope that everything goes well and I hope that you can come to terms with whatever decision that you make. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. I wanted to chit chat with you guys a little bit because I just want to give you guys some updates on, I don't know, just random stuff. But first of all, I went to Aldi today because I was picking up groceries and I saw a little kitten. And the way that I thought this was my time to shine, because I've always wanted to find kittens on the side of the road and just be like, trap them and take them and then like foster them until someone else wants them. That's my dream. So whenever I get the chance, like, yeah, I'm gonna go for it. But I was picking up my groceries, but I did pick up. So the person put my groceries in the trunk, and then I look over, and there's a little kitten in the bush, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like a little kitten too. It's like probably 3-4 pounds. That I don't see any other kittens around. I don't see a big cat. I don't see like a mom cat. I don't see anything other than that little kitten. And I get out and I'm like calling at it because I think maybe it's going to come to me. But no, it runs so fast into the bushes. And then I was like, okay, shit. I go in, I get a thing of canned food, wet food, and a bag of treats because I think maybe I can lure him out. And he runs over to the store and I run after him. I don't run after him. I'm trying to be like nice and be like kitty kitty and just be calm, but it's not working. He keeps running. He keeps running. He goes through more bushes. He goes all the way around the store. I'm chasing after him. I have these sweatpants on right now. I literally have like a bunch of burrs all attached to the bottom of my sweatpants because I was chasing him and I was trying to find him. And then I ended up losing him somewhere in the bushes. I don't know where, but I just took the can of food and like dumped it out because I was gonna leave the can there, but then I was like, I don't want to litter this can. So I think it's fine if I just dumped it out, right? Like I hope that he ends up eating it, and then I also left some treats for him. But I'm so sad. I really wanted to capture him and like take care of him and then give him to like a shelter, or I could just foster him until the shelter found a home for him if they didn't have room. But that leads me into this weekend. We went to the shelter, which me and Jack, my boyfriend, used to do all the time. I'm not even kidding. I used to live right next to the shelter. And so it was like right down the road. We would go like multiple times a week just to go in and pet the kitties and see all the new kitties. And it was just so nice and like such a form of therapy. And then we ended up getting our cat from there as well, one of them. And so we went this weekend with a friend of ours because he actually was supposed to be getting married this year, but him and his fiance ended things. So we thought that this would be a good like little therapy trip for him to go and pet some cats, maybe get a cat. But I think that he'll end up getting a cat once like he figures everything out with like living situations. But that was really fun and such a good time. There were so many adult kitties that were nice and friendly, which I find hard to find in shelters. A lot of the time they're very standoffish as adults. Obviously the kittens are like they don't give a fuck who you are. But like the adult cats are usually a lot harder to find nice ones. I swear every cat I went into the room, every cat was nice and like cuddly and was rubbing and wanted pets, and it was just such a breath of fresh air. I loved it. And then I came home to my kitties and I was like, I love you guys so much because I just feel like visiting other kitties makes me appreciate my kitties even more. I don't know why, but just because I'm like there and they're giving me love, and then I'm like, oh, thank God I have this love also at home. But I also wish that I could take you all home. There was one named Mila, and she was like 2 years old, and she was the most loving little kitty ever. She was so sweet, and she's gonna get adopted so fast, I know, because she was just so loving, so kind, and oh my gosh, I couldn't get over her. I was like, I went in her room like 3 times because I just felt so bad leaving her every time. But I then yesterday went thrifting and I redecorated this room, guys. I've been trying to redecorate this room for so long. And honestly, I'm very proud of my progress. So, in this corner, which you can't see, there's a red chair. It's my little reading nook. And there's a shelf with a bunch of decorations. There's little like picture frames. And then I moved the 3 globe like IKEA light over there as well. And then I got this new lamp with this little side table. And I got a bunch. This I already had. I got these, you can't see, but I got the top two at the thrift store. I got this giant one for like $40 at the thrift store. And I really have been wanting to go for this type of vibe, like more of an antique, like, what is that called? Like that girl. What is she called? I don't know. I forget the word that I want to use, but I've been wanting to go for this vibe. So I'm hoping to incorporate some like leopard as well. I don't know. I just love leopard. And I feel like the gold frames with like leopard pillowcases, maybe. And honestly, maybe even a leopard rug. I feel like a leopard rug would kind of slay. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I'm mostly done with it. Like, I feel content about what I did to the point where I'm not like staying up at night thinking about what I'm gonna do and looking on Pinterest for hours on end. But yeah, so I love you guys. I think I'm done with this episode. I don't really have much else to say. I'm actually starving and my head hurts really bad right now. But, you know, I'll get through it. It'll be okay. I also, no, I forget what I was going to say. But yeah, I love you guys. And let me know what you thought about these stories. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please plus, what? Please press the like button, the subscribe button, and comment down below because I want to hear all of your thoughts and takes. And if you need any links, they're all in the description below. Okay? Love you. Bye.